From the dust of his ashes comes a promise from her womb. Then David slept with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David, reported Israel's historians. The line from one burial liturgy applies to kings too. From dust you are, and to dust you will return. The historians of the Hebrew Scriptures provide the grim statistics. After David, even after Solomon, more often than not, Israel and Judah suffered more puppets than kings, more tyrants than shepherds. To add insult to injury, by the time Micah gives the word of the Lord to Israel and Judah, more than 200 years have passed. That makes David quite dusty. Israel and Judah are both taunted by the prophet for thinking themselves insulated against powerful foes with no David in sight. Now, says Micah, for the third time, Micah paints the picture of the present and shifts attention to the future. Now you are walled around with a wall. Siege is laid against us, he wrote. Whatever confidence Jerusalem had mustered from its own city walls is now shaken by the wall of forces surrounding the city of David. The staff, used to secure the sheep, is wielded against its leader as a weapon. Yet David is nowhere to be found. These are dark days for the people of God. And these are dark days for all of God's people. Fleming Rutledge contends Advent bids us take a fearless inventory of the darkness without and the darkness within. We sit comfortably with Bible in hand, recounting the missteps of an ancient people. Time and distance make us smug. Purported progress leaves us feeling walled off from the calamities of ancient civilizations. Yet movements around the world today indicate that our self-satisfaction proves defenseless against the pursuits of power. No matter the setting, violence, in one form or another, reveals we're no different today than yesterday. Looking at the darkness within may be characterized by our sense of schadenfreude. My in-group won out over your in-group. News reports via media outlets are skewed toward the algorithmic programming for the us we prefer over against the them we despise. And when they get theirs, we're reminded all too well that we got ours. And no one is left to blame. Pride blinds us to pretensions and pathologies, theirs and ours. Only down in Babylon, amidst the ashes of distant promises, buried with the hopes of a former glory, the people learned how dark is the darkness. The pain that would come to the people would be akin to that of a woman in the pangs of childbirth. Writhe and groan, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in labor. For now you shall go forth from the city and camp in the open country. You shall go down to Babylon. And instead of the maternity ward at your local hospital or under the watchful eye of a midwife in your own home, the scene is open country, exposed to the elements and absent the security of walls of any sort. Not only is there no one else to blame, there is no one to whom they may turn. What seems like an eternal now of darkness, under which all Israel will succumb, is halted with but. Upon hearing the prophet's but, we might expect the prophet to offer a call back. Oh, would that David's ashes could find life like the dry bones of Ezekiel's valley vision. Oh, that our hero would return, the walls once again be our safety, and the king's army our security. but. From the turn toward the future, the word of the Lord promises the unexpected. From a place not so much as mentioned in the list of cities by Joshua entering the land of promise, barely the area the size enough to support a clan. Just some 5 miles in the shadow of the city of David will come a ruler, a leader. There is a sense of continuity there. That is, a king is a leader. But at that point, the continuity becomes discontinuity. Rather than a king that will demand more than you are willing to give and take what you're unwilling to let go of, the leader to whom Micah points is one that feeds his flock, gives security to his people, and gives peace. Welcome words to a besieged people exposed in open country, facing superpowers at every turn. But the prophet manages to drive up the distinction. That is, the one that is to come, the leader to put an end to all leaders, will come from the throes of captivity, living in the apparent eternal now of darkness, both within and without, leaves us, all of us, beholden to ambivalent lords and despotic demands. If Micah's audience thought the hope to come would come from outside, from a source not familiar with the burdens and troubles of people, they would surely be disabused of the idea hearing Micah's words. Therefore, he shall give them up until the time. The one that will rescue them, the one that rescues us, all of us, is the one to whom Mary gives birth. Not an incidental figure in the story of God, but the very mother of God. The young woman living in the darkness of Roman overlords and their religious powerful underlings. Mary gives us God's yes. Through the pangs of childbirth, Mary gives birth to the one that will be and is the bread of life. One way to remember the magnitude of the event is that living in the house of bread will be born the living bread amidst the darkness within and without for those living then that are like us today. The promise, once buried in the ashes of the hero king, apparently powerless against the powers of sin and death, comes to us, for us, to be with us. Fleming Rutledge again. She preached, Advent is the season that, when properly understood, does not flinch from the darkness that stalks us all in this world. Advent, she goes on, begins in the dark and moves toward the light, but the season should not move too quickly or too glibly, lest we fail to acknowledge the depth of the darkness. As our Lord Jesus tells us, she goes on, unless we see the light of God clearly, what we call light is actually darkness. How great is that darkness? The now of Micah reminds us of the darkness within and without. The but of Micah points to Mary, with whom we hear the good news. For the mighty one has done great things for me, and holy is his name.